This is the set of 6 Smart Kids Social Skills board games. It's available at nationalautismresources.com. And what this set includes are 3 double-sided social skills game boards that deal with a variety of social skills. So the games include how others feel, what makes a good friend, acting out, what would you do, manners, and the mountain of emotions. The mountain of emotions, the goal of this game is to help you recognize emotions in yourself and talk about things that you can do when you feel a certain way. To play, you take a couple of players, say a red, a blue, and a pink. You roll a dice, you move forward, nervous. Read the motion, so you'd read the emotion, and then talk about what makes you feel nervous. I feel nervous before I have to take a test. Players move around the board, and from time to time, they have the ability to sort of bump up if they can answer a question or do an action. So you're angry. Explain why counting backwards from 20 could help you. So here the student could say, by counting 20 backwards, it gives me time to relax and make a good choice. Manners, same idea. You roll the dice, you move your counters around the board, and as you're moving around the board, you're going to read a scenario and explain why the scenario on your space shows a good or bad manner. So for example, you say to your father, I want an ice cream. Is that a good manner or is that a bad manner? Is that a good way to express yourself or a poor way? The student then says, this is not a good way because I probably should say, can I have an ice cream cone, please? If most players agree with the student, you get to stay on that space, otherwise you have to return to the square that you were on. So there's a couple ways you could play this, right? You can do this with 2 players, you and a therapist, or in a group where the group can decide together if this is a good manner or a bad manner. Next game here we have is acting out. The die corresponds to a happy, angry, surprised, sad, worried, or excited action. To play, the student will roll the dice to see the number of spaces to move forward. So in this case, we're going to move 3. 1, 2, 3. They're going to read the sentence aloud using the emotion that matches the dice you rolled. 3 is going to be surprised. So they have to read, I'm going to see the dentist in a surprised manner. I'm going to see the dentist? Then the group gets to decide if the way that you acted out the sentence matched the emotion. And this is a great board for getting the idea across that different scenarios can cause different emotions. For example, I'm going to see the dentist could make me feel surprised, or if I roll a 4, it can make me feel sad. I'm going to see the dentist, or it can make me feel worried. Oh no, I'm going to see the dentist. Different scenarios can cause us to feel different ways, and 2 people can have different emotions for the same situation, and that's the acting out game. We flip the board over here, and then we have the what would you do game. And to play this, it's kind of the same idea. You roll the dice, you move forward a 1. So in this case, I'm going to roll the dice, I'm going to move forward 1. You see a stranger steal something from a shop. Now, what would you do given the situation on that space? So the student has to say what they would do if they saw a stranger steal something from a shop. The student might say, I would go tell a manager. After the student says, I would go tell a manager, the group gets to decide, is that a good choice or is there a better choice that we can make in this situation? So that's the what would you do game. The next game is the manners game. To play this game, same idea. You roll the die the number of spaces to move forward. Once you land on a space, you need to read the scenario and explain why the scenario in your space shows a good manner or a bad manner. For example, I rolled a 1. You ring your friend but dial the wrong number, so you hang up the phone without saying anything. Is that a good manner or is that a bad manner? As a group, you can talk about that. So I would say that's probably a bad manner. The nice thing to do would be to say, oh, I'm sorry, I called the wrong number. Okay, so in this instance, I rolled a 2, 1, 2. And the scenario is you thank your mother when she buys you an ice cream cone. Is that a good choice? I would say yes, that's a good choice. That's a good manner because after receiving the ice cream cone, you said thank you. So as players move around the board, there's a variety of scenarios that explain different manners, responses to situations, and your students get to talk about it and decide if it's a good manner or a poor manner. The How Others Feel game. So to play this game, you're going to need your own play piece. You could use coins, nickels, some kind of small manipulative. I've got a little fish here. Players are all going to start at start. They could go any direction. When they land on one of these emotion circles, they have to tell other players about a situation when they saw someone feel that emotion. Then they can take a counter. The winner is the first player to collect all the different colored counters. I roll 2. I can immediately start off here, and I can describe a time when I saw somebody excited. I saw my sister very excited when it was her birthday. I get to take a counter. And so this game gets you thinking about identifying emotions in others and explaining times when you've identified emotions in other people. You could also flip this around. Instead of talking about how others feel, you can explain a time you felt angry, nervous, happy, by talking about how others feel. The goal is to get people to start noticing others, how they're feeling in their emotions. The last game is the What Makes a Good Friend game. And the same idea of this game, you're going to roll the dice to move across the game. As you move across the game, you're going to look at different characteristics that make up a good friend. Let's say you land on supports you. The player then looks at the space and tells the other player of a time when a friend displayed this characteristic. When was the time that somebody supported you or your friend supported you? And you may say, well, I fell down, I scraped my knee, and my friend came up to me and helped me up. They supported me. If most players, after you explain that scenario, agree that that's a good example of someone supporting you, you get to stay on that space. If not, you have to move back. As players move around the board and share examples of times when friends have been helpful, good listener, like the same things that they like, as players discuss these different scenarios and situations, it's a good opportunity to talk about good friends, what good friends are like. And it's also a good opportunity to talk about some people, although they say they are your friend, they may not always be a good friend. And it gives you the opportunity to talk about how to be a good friend. We all want friends, but the secret to keeping and maintaining friends is to act like a good friend. And so this is a very practical game that allows you to explore lots of different scenarios about how to be a good friend. So the social skills board game, it's really designed to help build empathy, help individuals to recognize and act out emotions, manage emotions, make good choices in social situations, and be a good friend. It's available at nationalautismresources.com. It's generally recommended for students who can read, and because a lot of these board games are open-ended, the students are talking about their personal situations. You could use it easily with grade school, middle school, and even up to high school. So that's available at nationalautismresources.com.